Close your eyes for a moment and think of purgatory. What do you see? Most likely, the collective imagination will suggest scenes of torment, a place of suffering, almost like an antechamber of hell. A divine tribunal where every sin is paid for with a precise punishment, a fire that burns and chastises the faults committed in life. For centuries, we have imagined purgatory as a kind of temporary hell, a place to be feared, from which souls must be rescued through the force of our prayers, almost as if we had to convince a stern God to soften his just sentence. But what if I told you that this vision, while containing a truth about suffering, omits its very heartbeat, the deepest and most astonishing secret? What if the driving force of purgatory were not punishment from justice, but something happening within us, something so extraordinary that it overturns everything we thought we knew? Today, we will embark on a journey that may forever change the way you see the afterlife. We will not explore the purgatory that terrifies. We will explore the purgatory that speaks to our modern world through the ancient words of Saint Catherine of Genoa. And before beginning this journey, we have a small gift for you. We've created a spiritual guide on this very theme, drawing from the teachings of Saint Faustina, Saint Catherine of Genoa, and Maria Sima. You can download it right now through the link in the first comment and in the description. Catherine Fieschi Adorno, a noblewoman from Genoa in the 15th century, married for political reasons, lived a worldly and superficial life for 10 years, until at the age of 26, a sudden mystical experience changed everything. She saw the misery of her own heart and, at the same time, the infinite mercy of God, and the vision struck her to the ground. From that day, she dedicated herself completely to the incurably ill in the hospital of Pamatone, serving the poorest of the poor. She was not a professional theologian, nor did she write for academics. She simply wrote what she saw with the eyes of her soul. And what she saw of purgatory is so profound that it was gathered into her treatise on purgatory, a text that has inspired saints and theologians for 5 centuries. Her first and most astonishing revelation: purgatory is not a place, but a state of the soul. Catherine asks us to picture a soul that, in the very instant after death, finds itself for the first time free from the filters of the body and of the world. In that moment, it sees God. Not as an idea, but as a living reality, absolute beauty, infinite goodness, perfect love, the very purpose for which it was created. It is a shock of love and attraction so powerful that the soul desires nothing else but to fling itself into his embrace. But in that same moment, in that pure light, the soul also sees itself with a clarity never known before. It sees every tiny imperfection, every disordered attachment, every trace of rust left by sin, even venial sin. And it understands, with absolute certainty, that it is not yet ready for that perfect union. Love requires purity. Let us listen to her own words passed down to us. The soul, leaving this life and seeing God as He is, conceives such a great love for so perfect a God that this love itself becomes its purgatory. It consumes and purifies it from every stain. Do you see? It is not God who says, "You are unworthy, go into the fire." It is the soul itself that, beholding God's holiness and its own condition, feels such acute sorrow for its imperfection that this very love becomes its purifying fire. Here we arrive at the heart of Catherine's vision, an image that changes everything. The fire of purgatory is not an external, material fire sent by a punishing God. It is the inner fire of God's very love blazing within the soul. It is the soul itself, driven by an unbearable desire to be pure for its divine spouse, that willingly throws itself into this process of purification. It is an act born of love, not of fear. Saint Catherine uses a powerful image, the rust of sin. Hear how she describes it. The soul sees in God a furnace of love, and when it sees its stains, it casts itself into this fire. The rust of sin is the obstacle, and the fire does not cease consuming it until the soul is wholly purified. The soul has thrown itself voluntarily into this purgatory for love of God. Thrown itself voluntarily. That is the key. It is not forced, it leaps. Because the pain of remaining even for an instant imperfect before the Beloved is greater than any purifying suffering. And here lies the divine paradox of purgatory. It is at once the greatest pain and the greatest joy. Do not misunderstand. Saint Catherine does not describe a soft purgatory. On the contrary, she affirms that the suffering of souls there is so intense it surpasses any pain imaginable on earth. But the nature of this pain is entirely different. It is not the pain of despair felt by the damned who hate God. It is the sweet agony of yearning love. Listen to this essential distinction in her words. No tongue can express, no intellect comprehend how great is the pain of purgatory. But I say that, however great it may be, it is a pain full of mercy. For if souls still had the power to sin, the sight of God would be enough to keep them from it. They would rather endure 1,000 hells than commit even one sin in His presence. And again, on the paradox of pain and joy, I do not believe there is any contentment to be compared with that of a soul in purgatory, except that of the saints in paradise. This contentment never fails. Rather, it grows day by day as the impediment to love is consumed. An immense pain and a joy that grows. They suffer because they are not yet with God, but rejoice because they know with absolute certainty that they are going to Him. In purgatory, there is not a single moment of doubt or despair, only hope and love that burns. If we accept this vision, everything changes. Our God is no longer a stern accountant demanding payment to the last cent, but a passionate lover waiting on the threshold, whose love is so powerful it purifies anyone who desires it. The souls in purgatory are no longer passive victims in a prison. They are active participants, heroic souls collaborating with God's love to make themselves beautiful for Him. And our prayers? Their meaning changes completely. They are no longer an attempt to placate an angry God or pay off a ransom. They become an act of pure love, of fraternal support. It is like holding the hand of a friend during a hard trial. It is like whispering, "Courage, you are almost there," to an exhausted marathon runner. Our masses, our rosaries do not erase a debt. They give strength, consolation, and love to those who are running toward the Father's embrace, accelerating their purification through the joy they receive from our remembrance. Purgatory is no longer the waiting room of a tribunal, but the bridal chamber where the soul, with the help of the church militant and the church triumphant, adorns itself for its eternal meeting with the bridegroom. So next time you pray for a loved one who has passed, do not picture them in a place of terror. Picture them immersed in the ocean of God's love, aflame with desire for Him, letting themselves be consumed by that blessed fire. Your prayer will not be a lament, but a song of hope. A spiritual caress whispering, "You are not alone. We love you, and we await you." And if this revelation has kindled a light in your heart, if it has given you a new, deeper hope, share this video, and don't forget to download our free guide on purgatory in the comments. There is a whole world that needs to stop fearing purgatory and begin to understand the purifying power of God's love.